derivatives, because any other drug that was discovered fell short. It did not have the same, did not have the maximum activity that. So it was, so that's why that is the only drug actually in that category which is used for management of TB. Metabolism. So we have the SAR is small. That's what some of these drugs in the antimicrobacterial agent, even actually most of the drugs are, the classes are short, the drugs are not very elaborate, so they are a bit easy to understand and remember. Metabolism of isoniazid. One of the things that we note about isoniazid is that isoniazid, the drugs, the enzyme that metabolize isoniazid, which is the N-acetyltransferase, there is some polymorphism, whereby you have alleles, so you can have people who are fast metabolizers, you can have people who are slow metabolizers, or of course you have the normal metabolizers. Now, depending on what kind of population you have, if you have the fast metabolizers, then the drug will not have activity. If you have the slow metabolizers, the drug will have toxicity. So you need to understand what if the population you have has that kind of polymorphism in terms of the enzyme. The enzyme has polymorphism, because if it does have polymorphism, then if they are fast metabolizers, you must increase the dosage. If they are slow metabolizers, you must decrease the dose. Otherwise, the patient will have a lot of toxicity. So isoniazid is metabolized in the liver via. There are two forms of the enzyme responsible for acetylation, so that some patients metabolize the drug more quickly than others, hence the half-life is bimodal with peaks at 1 hour and 3 hours in the US population. Metabolites are excreted in the urine. Doses do not usually have to be adjusted in case of hemophilia. All we are saying is that you must be careful whether a patient is a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer, so that you can adjust the dose accordingly. Now, when we look at the main route of metabolism of isoniazid, is through acetylation. Here we have our isoniazid is here. Main route of metabolism is through acetylation. So you have here N-acetyl isoniazid. You can see we have added the acetyl group, and then the N-acetyl isoniazid can undergo hydrolysis, amide hydrolysis, characterized by amidases, to get the isonicotinic acid and hydrazine. The hydrazine itself also can undergo acetylation. So the hydrazine itself can undergo acetylation, and so you can see this N-acetyl isoniazid, which is giving us acetyl hydrazine, so being cleaved. So this is being cleaved to hydrazine, and the hydrazine can undergo acetylation, and that is your hydrazine undergoing acetylation to give us acetyl hydrazide, or it can undergo again, the acetyl hydrazide can undergo again another acetylation to give us the diacetyl hydrazide. So those are the main routes. I think I have another one which even indicates the enzyme. So again, we are starting with isoniazid. This is our isoniazid here. And that isoniazid there, we are saying can undergo acetylation, and the acetylation is catalyzed by N-acetyltransferase. N-acetyltransferase is the enzyme that catalyzes the acetylation. And it does that, we get acetyl isoniazid. So you can see all that has happened is that NH acquires an acetyl group. Then the acetyl isoniazid can undergo hydrolysis. Hydrolysis here, which is catalyzed by the amidase enzyme there. And if that does happen, you will get the isonicotinic acid. You can see you have the isonicotinic acid, and you have the hydrazine. So this is the hydrazine there, and then the hydrazine also. Oh, this hydrazine was already acetylated. So the hydrazine was already acetylated. That's why we are getting acetyl hydrazine, because this is already acetyl isoniazid. So the hydrazine has been acetylated. So we are cleaving here. So we'll get the isonicotinic acid plus acetyl hydrazine. So that is what we are getting here. Acetylhydrazine catalyzed by the enzyme amidase, and then the acetyl hydrazine can again be acted on by cytochrome 2E1. You realize that cytochrome 2E1 is an enzyme that results in formation of metabolites that are highly reactive. So it can be acted by cytochrome 2E1 to give us a highly reactive metabolite. And that highly reactive metabolites, most of the highly reactive metabolites undergo detoxification through combining or by combining with glutathione. So that's what we're saying here. The glutathione can combine with the reactive metabolite, which is formed from the reaction of cytochrome 2E1 or cytochrome P450 enzyme with acetylhydrazine. And that is important because all that is doing is detoxifying the reactive metabolite so that it does not bind the tissues. If that doesn't happen, then the reactive metabolite, I believe here, is it will bind the place here, unfortunately. I don't know what happened. So the reactive metabolite, if it's not detoxified, then it will bind the body tissues. And once it binds the body tissues, that is how you will find the drug having some toxicity. So that is one route of metabolism. And then also the acetyl hydrazine can also be acted by N-acetyl transferase, another N-acetyl transferase, as we had said earlier. And all that will happen. You add another acetyl amino group and you get the diacetyl hydrazine. You get the diacetyl hydrazine. Again, the acetyl hydrazine can undergo hydrolysis, because you can see it's a hydrazide. It can undergo hydrolysis at this position to release your acetyl group, and if you release your acetyl group, that's how we are getting our hydrazine. And of course, our hydrazine itself also, these are reversible reaction, and acetyl transferase again to get our acetyl hydrazine. So then, of course, our isoniazid itself can also, on itself, before it is acetylated, on itself, it can also undergo hydrolysis, amide hydrolysis, to give us our hydrazine, and of course also to give us our isonicotinic acid. So those are the main routes of hydrolysis. Of course, also the isoniazid can also be acted by cytochrome P450 to give us reactive metabolites. If not detoxified, those reactive metabolites can be of much danger to the body and cause us a lot of toxicity. So this is the same as we had seen here. All we are doing is that we are also putting in the enzyme. We have the amidases. Amidases bring about amide hydrolysis. We have the N-acetyl transferases. Transferases usually transfer an acetyl group. Those are the main enzymes that we have. Of course, we have the cytochrome P450 enzyme, usually which causes a lot of quite a number of metabolism, including oxidative hydroxylation and so on. And you can, because you can see this is an aromatic ring which is highly has a high density of electrons, so you can have cytochrome P450 enzyme acting on it, and as we have said, giving us a highly reactive metabolite. But the body is it is usually radio formed so that it can be able to deactivate some of those metabolites, and that is why we have also the mechanism of detoxification. And I do believe when we're doing the metabolism, you did mention glutathione, and glutathione, if you have it in proper concentrations, then the purpose of glutathione, one of the main purposes, is to detoxify the electrophiles or the highly reactive metabolites so that they do not bind the body tissues. If they bind the body tissues, then you can even have a formation of, actually you can have a formation of free radicals, formation of cancerous tissues, and so on. So one of the areas, and that's why we did mention, like when we discuss paracetamol, we will see that paracetamol can cause toxicity, especially in patients who have malnourishment and do not have enough of the glutathione. Once you don't have enough glutathione, either you have malnourishment or you have ingestion of alcohol, then you can be susceptible to drug toxicity, especially drugs that that make what we are calling the reactive metabolites. So the reactive metabolites are actually responsible for causing a lot of toxicity, including hepatotoxicity, causing hepatotoxicity, and of course other tissue, because they bind the tissues, cause tissue death, and therefore can cause very serious toxicity. So that's the metabolism of isoniazid. Physical chemical properties: isoniazid is a colorless, odorless, sweet to bitter, crystalline, easily soluble in alcohol, water, and partially insoluble in ether and benzene. So we can say, if you look at it, it's odorless, sweet to bitter, easily soluble in alcohol, in water. So it has some hydrophilicity. It has some hydrophilicity, and therefore soluble in water, but partially insoluble in ether and benzene. If you look at its structure, again, the isoniazid, because of this, you can see this section here. That is water soluble. This is water soluble. That's water soluble, and that is water soluble. So it has got quite good hydrophilicity, and that is why we are saying it is soluble in alcohol, water, and not very highly soluble in ether and benzene. The most common side effects is peripheral neuritis, optic neuritis, hepatotoxicity, and the hepatotoxicity mainly is because of what we have seen. When you have formation of those reactive metabolites. Those reactive metabolites will go and bind the liver tissues. And once they bind the liver tissues, they will cause toxicity within the liver. They can cause anorexia, weakness, fever, fatigue, nephrotoxicity, and so on. And even the nephrotoxicity, again, because of the same problems. Urticaria, anemia, of course, all these things, you need to know them mainly in pharmacology. But like the hepatotoxicity is important even for us as PharmChem students, because we understand the origin of the hepatotoxicity is mainly because of the route of metabolism, Therapeutic uses, of course, we use it in the management or treatment of TB, usually 2 or 3 agents together or alone for prophylaxis. Mainly, as we have said, we give it in combination. We give it in combination with other drugs, because to avoid delay toxicity. More often than not, it's also given with vitamin B6 to minimize or to reduce its toxicity. It is a first-line drug. It is generally used with other antitubercular drugs in multiple drug therapy to lower the doses of the other active drugs and, of course, also achieve effectiveness. Remember, when you do use combination therapy, if you use combination therapy, you also have a leeway where you use lower doses of each of the drugs, because all of them are hitting on the same microorganism. So once you use combination therapy, you do not use a maximum dose which is used when that drug is used alone. When you do combination therapy, you lower the individual doses of each drug. When you lower the individual doses of each drug, there could be an advantage of lowering toxicity. But also, when you use combination therapy, there could be also this toxicity, because you're exposing this patient to very many drugs. So that either of the two can happen. That when you use combination therapy, you are exposing this patient to very many drugs at the same time. So there could be danger of toxicity. But at the same time, there could be an advantage of decreased toxicity for each drug, because each drug will be used in lower dosage, because all the drugs, all the single drug, all the individual drugs are combining their effect, and therefore you do not require as high a dose as you would require if you use it singly. Number two, of course, we have said when you use combination therapy, of course, you will delay. We call it delay because ultimately the microorganisms do acquire resistance. So you will delay resistance and therefore make these drugs much, much, much more effective. And as we have said, for TB, hakuna mchezo. You must kill the microorganisms. Some of the toxic effects, of course, we have said there is hepatitis or hepatotoxicity. A major adverse effect acid is rare. It is rare in children, but more common in older people and in alcoholics. Remember, I did mention when I was discussing about alcoholics, chronic alcoholism induces the cytochrome 2E1, which generates the hepatotoxic metabolite. I did mention to you that hepatotoxic metabolite is the one which will bring us problems. And it can happen in people who take alcohol chronically. When you take alcohol acutely, it's sometimes of advantage when it's just acute ingestion. But for people who take it chronically, then you find there is an increase of cytochrome 2E1 generates that reactive metabolite, and that can be the genesis of the hepatitis, the genesis of the hepatitis. INH hepatotoxicity is due to dose-related damage to the liver cells, but is reversible on stopping the drug. That is very positive. It is due to dose-related damage to the liver cell, and we have said the liver cells are getting damaged because if that reactive metabolite is not deactivated or is not detoxified, more often than not, it is detoxified by glutathione. But you see, as you continue using the glutathione to detoxify this reactive metabolite, if you are not making enough of that glutathione, then you can cause depletion of the glutathione. If you're not eating well, you can also cause depletion of the glutathione and therefore have the hepatotoxicity or hepatitis. And that is why these patients are also advised to eat well. Of course, it is very difficult for them to eat well because when you take about 3-4 drugs at the same time, they of course also cause you a lot of nausea, and definitely feeding can be a problem. But they are advised to eat well so that we minimize hepatotoxicity or hepatitis. They can also get peripheral neuritis. This is due to interference with the production of the active coenzyme pyridoxophosphate from pyridoxine, and it's increased in urine. So they can get peripheral neuritis because there is an interference with production of the active coenzyme pyridoxophosphate. And the pyridoxophosphate is an important coenzyme in very, very many body pathways. Very important coenzyme. It is synthesized from pyridoxine, and that is why we said for us to minimize this, then most of these patients are given vitamin B6 or they are given pyridoxine prophylactically, and this prevents the neurotoxin even with higher doses. So normally, that is why you find these patients also being given vitamin B6. Prophylactic pyridoxine must be given to diabetics, chronic alcoholics, malnourished, pregnant, lactating, and HIV-infected patients, but routine use is not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Routine use is not mandatory, but you would require to give these susceptible groups. And remember, we did mention some of those susceptible groups when we were starting. It would be important to give them the prophylactic pyridoxine so that you minimize peripheral neuritis. INH neurotoxicity is treated by pyridoxine about 100 milligrams daily. Pharmacokinetics, it is completely absorbed orally and penetrates all body fluids, tubercular cavities, and placenta and meninges. So it is a very good drug. Of course, resistance has developed, and that, of course, hinders or restricts the use of some of these drugs, but it is still one of the drugs that is being used in management of TB. It is extensively metabolized in the liver. Most important pathway, as we have already said, is N-acetylation. Well absorbed, that is a good sign, and penetrates all body tissues so that even if you have TB within the other body tissues, it will penetrate those tissues and it will bring good activity. Resistance to isoniazid is associated with overexpression of the INHA. You see, if the microorganism decides or develops a gene so that it can overexpress or it can oversynthesize the enzyme that is inhibited, when you give the drug, it will inhibit some of that enzyme, but some of the enzyme will be free, and therefore mycolic acid will still be formed. So that's one way, overexpression of the enzyme that is being blocked by the isonicotinic acid or the radical. So once that enzyme is overexpressed, there is more production of that enzyme, then there will not be total blockade of that enzyme. Some of it will be available. Some of the enzyme will be available to continue synthesis of the mycolic acid even in the presence of the INH. The other one is of a producers of INH express low level INH resistance and cross resistance to ethionamide. We're going to look at ethionamide. We are only further adding that if for those who overproduce the INH, they express low level INH resistance and cross resistance to ethionamide. Then we have a CAT-G mutants express high level. Remember, we talked about that enzyme, which is the CAT-G. This is the catalyst. This is the enzyme that activates the prodrug isoniazid to the isonicotinic acid. They express high level of INH resistance, so they will have a lot of resistance to INH and usually no cross resistance to ethionamide. So these are just facts that have been observed, that if you have an overproducer of ions and INH, they have expressed low level resistance to INH. They do not have a lot of resistance towards INH, and they unfortunately will have cross resistance to ethionamide. If you have cross resistance to ethionamide, that means you cannot give them ethionamide. But if you have CAT-G mutants, again, CAT-G mutants, these are people who will come up or use a CAT-G that is not blocked by the isonicotinic acid. So the CAT-G mutants will express high level of an isoniazid resistance. In other words, they'll be highly, because you see here, if you have a CAT-G mutant, it means you are not producing the active moiety of the isoniazid. So how will it act? There will be a lot of resistance because you must first, isoniazid is a prodrug. It must be converted first to isonicotinic acid. Now this person has produced a CAT-G which is not sensitive to isoniazid, so for sure, or which does not convert, which does not convert INH to the active moiety. So they have a mutant which does not convert INH to the active moiety. So you do not have the active moiety. So definitely you will have a lot of resistance. And of course, they are saying there is no cross resistance to ethionamide. So those are some of just the 3 points which I had on the resistance. And I think that was my last slide on INH. Any question? So in other words, we are saying resistance can be mainly two-way. You can have resistance by overexpression, or you can have resistance by getting the peroxidase, which is resistant of a peroxidase that does not activate. A peroxidase that does not activate, or that does not act on the INH, does not activate it to the isonicotinic acid radical, and therefore no activity. So those are the two main ways of resistance. Is there any question? Any question? Kuna swali? Any question? Are we okay? That's the first category. Any question? Tumenyamaza, tuko sawa? Tuko sawa class? We have 20 minutes. Can I load something else? Are we okay? Tuko sawa? Okay. Beth Mudhoni says okay. All right. At least when you communicate, someone is happy. Do I load something else, or with that we call it, that is enough for the day? Let us sign in also. Let everybody to sign in. It's important to sign in. It shows that you are there. Do I load? We have only 19 minutes more. Do I load something, or we call it a day? Kosawa. Thank you. Thank you, Keboy. Thank you. Thank you. What we should do when we meet? When we meeting next? On Tuesday? Am I meeting you on Friday? Is it you are meeting on Friday, or is the other? It's the 3rd years, I think. Are we done for this week? Unfortunately, the questions are the same and they need a yes. So I do not know whether you are saying you are okay or which one you are answering. Present, thank you. Yes, I can see somebody who's saying, yes, a quick one. Since it can cross over the placenta, does it have toxicity, contraindications during pregnancy? Yes, it will. But you see, sometimes now, it becomes a big problem because you have to save the mother. You have to save the mother and hope for the best. Hope for the best. Most of these patients, when they have TB, they're also advised to try and use all the possible methods of contraception so that they don't get pregnant, because it becomes a big problem. But of course, when because there are people even who deliver and the kids get TB, you can't treat the young one. But you understand the fetus is highly sensitive, so more often than not, they even advised during treatment of TB to try the best they can not to get pregnant, because that complicates the treatment, and more often than not, it might lead in loss of the pregnancy. Because if, like, you're in first trimester and you're taking these many chemicals, normally the fetus cannot survive. So those are some of the dangers that we do have. But the advantages are the disease is treatable. Once you are treated, then of course you can very readily start your family. But quite a number of the treatment for quite a few months when they get pregnant. Some of them actually do have miscarriages because these drugs are very strong, very strong. So normally, even when you go out there, it is to advise the patients during that time of treatment to try and use all the measures they can for contraception to avoid pregnancy, because these drugs can still actually cause an abortion. Signed in. I hope you're happy. And so we are meeting, I think, next on Tuesday for non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. I think we can even meet early. Only that I have a kibarua in the morning to take my grandson to school. But we can still meet the way we meet at 8. And we can do more of, perhaps we can do, and see whether we can even do 1 hour of antibacterials and then 2 hours. Because Monday to Wednesdays, when is your practical? Your practical runs together with after the lesson, isn't it so, Jacinta?
Yes.
Your practical comes after the class.
Yes, our practical for antibiotics is Monday afternoon.
Aha! Why did you tell me? Then we can have a session then. Have you started your practicals?
No.
Monday afternoon, eh?
Yes.
Because it was my prayer that we move very fast and see what we can do. Monday afternoon, you have the practical for antibiotics.
Yes.
Then number 1. Number 2, Wednesday?
Tuesday morning.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yes. Yesterday, that's where we started,
Yes.
at 8 a.m.
We started at 8. So we went,
Yes.
what we can do, Tuesday we still maintain steroidal anti-inflammatories and start early and do as
Yes.
much as we can. But when you get tired, you say you are tired. So what we can try Monday.
Yes.
Monday afternoon, isn't it?
Yes.
We continue with the antibacterial agents.
Yeah.
Because we are a bit behind, we catch up and we try, and we do this up to the time you start your practicals. Have you talked to Tom? Because the practicals are usually not many. Have you discussed with Tom? When are you starting your practicals?
I talked to Eunice.
Yeah, okay, Eunice.
And then we are supposed to plan for them. We have not yet decided when.
So you have not planned. So we can use that time now up to when you start the practicals. It will be of benefit to us. So we meet on Monday afternoon.
Yes.
We do the antibacterial agents, because these ones don't even have many structures. They are simple drugs, okay?
Yes.
So that if we can finish early, the better for us.
We had done the practicals last the
Oh,
time we
yeah.
were doing. Yeah.
You had done the practicals.
Yes.
So, but perhaps what will be required of you, had you handed in the write-ups, the reports?
Yeah. Yes, and they were marked.
They were marked.
Yes.
I had said, let me discuss with the current COD.
Yeah.
We see whether you require to do them again or we will use that, because will you remember those things?
We will read
You need to
through.
discuss. You as students, you need to discuss amongst yourself. You know, now you're adults, okay?
Yes.
You discuss amongst yourself, and you should be able to tell me that Tari, we are okay with those practicals we did, or we want to have a repeat. The choice is yours. Are we together?
Yes.
But you need to have a consensus. You sit down, you discuss, and you tell me the way forward. Whether you want us to use that, whether practicals, or you can do other practicals, even as I consult the management. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then remember the assignment should be in by next week.
Yes, I will bring them on Monday to the.
You can put them in my pigeonhole.
Yes.
With that, can we say you have a beautiful weekend?
Yes, thank
I can
you.
see Cecilia concerning yesterday. I missed the last part. Class. What do you want, Cecilia? What do you want me to do? Can you talk with one of your students who writes notes nicely so that you can share the notes? And then where you are stuck, you call me. You see whether we can discuss. All right, Cecilia. First of all, you talk to a friend. You copy the notes. After you copy the notes, then you can always call me. I talk with students every time. You call me. We talk. What you have not understand, we have a forward. Whether we are going to, at least the Kenneth platform, you can have as many as you want, as long as there is a time. We see whether we can have a Kenneth platform. We discuss what you didn't follow. That can be done. All right. Any other problem? Thank you very much. Enjoy your. Is it almost weekend? Today is Wednesday. It's too early. So sign in if you haven't signed in. And I'm happy at least the attendance is good. I'm happy. Let us continuing on. Not bad. You're doing well. You're doing well. You can see today we have 37. Jacinta, keep advising the students, keep encouraging the students to attend lectures. It's important to attend lectures, whether online or whatever. It's important to attend lectures. What you get from the lecture is not the same as the reading that you do. You get to understand, I believe, much more. So it's important to attend lectures. And if anybody has a problem, please contact me. Let us talk early enough before you are put to task to explain things. It's better for you to put me to task to explain to you rather than you not knowing and you know you don't know and you don't ask. So we have open door policy. Please keep talking to me, keep me busy. Let us discuss where we don't understand. So at this time we have distinctions because we are doing this unit a second time. So with those many and few remarks, I think I wish you all the best until Monday morning. Until Friday. We are meeting with you on Friday. No, the 3 ones until Monday, isn't it, Jacinta? Paka Monday.
Yes, Monday.
Monday morning. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Monday afternoon.
Sorry, Monday afternoon. God bless you. Thank you. I wish it was morning, but I was too organize myself so that I'm available on Monday afternoon. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much.